There's a lot of life out here, we know that. This is a letter from Irina to James G. from autumn 2005. Hello, James. Actually, I've had a very difficult summer. It's been very hot, and I've had to work in an almost deserted campus. In the end, I've finished the papers, and I've passed the examination. You have to defend the papers in front of a committee. The papers have to give signs of potential for independent research, and generally when you submit drafts of them to the committee members, you can encounter the problem that each of these persons has different approaches to your topic. In your own paper, you have to be able to select and to create harmony between all these different opinions. It is in no way an easy task. Edith, the original linguist from Cornell who wears a hat, who plays football, and who rides on her bike a good number of kilometers every day early in the morning, has come for me 2 times a week from Queens, giving up going to 2 conferences. During the examination, she's been extremely tough. Fortunately, I've prepared myself for such a behavior. Otherwise, I would have felt a kind of betrayal. Before the defense, it happened that she screamed at me. I will never forget this. I think that I have seen tears of fury when she was doing this. I'm asking myself how I've managed to go through this. I'm also asking myself if the others get the same treatment. I have the intuition that this has been for me. I think that this experience has changed me a lot. They want to know how you react to criticism, how capable you are to manipulate ideas on the spot, how spontaneous and flexible you are. They also want to make you aware of the fact that they do not have anything personal with you, against you, but that they will attack you fiercely when there is something not okay in your paper. Anyway, recently I've received from Edith, who has moved to Northwestern where she's going to teach for 2 years, an email in which she says that according to her, I should have become much more sophisticated after all this. I like the term, taking into account that Edith is the most authentic person I know. So being sophisticated without being snobbish represents an ideal you can aim at. Now, the semester has begun. I have not any vacation. I'm helping Larson with his syntax class. Larson is a friend of Chomsky and a specialist in philosophy of language and syntax, an absolutely brilliant mind. I'm auditing some other 2 advanced syntax classes, and I'm trying to think of my proposal for a thesis. So this is what I've been doing lately. I know that I should also do something else, but again, there is no time for easy things. That is why I suppose that I should consider the everyday experience as easy. I will see when I get to New York. I should do it sometime during the following 2 months. Bye, Irina.
Now, Ellen Geigeler will read a brief excerpt from another essay by Irina's aunt, entitled Genius and Angel.
And the beautiful and the emblematic being of genius, emblematic of all our beautiful young people of genius, who left to fight their difficult battles abroad, came home and going towards the taxi with which we were waiting for her in Otopeni, the international airport, she said, laughing, and we laughed with her, "I've come to die in my homeland." She said it laughing because she strongly believed, like us, that she would live. Now, when your tragic premonition, which came from the depth of your unconscious, even of your biological cell, came true now, when you are in your homeland, that is the homeland of your grandparents, and of the many generations of your great-grandparents, I can clearly see the line of your destiny as a young genius, your secret password for the computer. Lost in relativity, and definitely and exemplarily one in the absolute for Romanian culture. During the funeral, Father Dan Tawadr said that maybe you left us because God loved you the most. And because now I am looking into a book about Abraham, I cannot help considering this coincidence as a sign and thinking of the patriarch's life and of the test to which God puts him, asking him to bring him his son Isaac as a sacrifice. Abraham obeys him, but when the father brings the knife near Isaac's body, God stops his hand. For my young, beautiful, brilliantly intelligent, severely honest daughter, God's hand did not want to stop the killing knife. Why? Why this terrible punishment, we can ask ourselves. Maybe this is not a punishment, but a sign sent to us, those who live in routine and in our gilded mediocrity without being haunted by the idea of perfection and absolute, a sign which is so awfully painful that we should not pass by it carelessly, a sign which should remove a dark veil from our consciousness and illuminate us by the sacrifice of the youngest, of the most beautiful, of the purest one of us, by the sacrifice of a genius angel who wandered among us.
Following Irina's death, her family spent a great deal of time and effort in Irina's memory, collecting all of her work, as well as Irina's letters to friends and family, and letters about Irina in several volumes, some of which you can see over there at one of those tables. As part of one of these volumes, Irina's parents, both professors in Romania, have published an extensive 20-page letter that they wrote in their grief to Irina's American department here at Stony Brook. I'll now read a few brief excerpts from this letter. Nature had endowed Irina with great many and sundry gifts, as if aware that she had come into this world with a difficult mission, which she was responsible for, and which does not allow her to waste time and strength in petty things. She always used all of these gifts to enrich her mind and her soul. Irina never passed carelessly by people and things. Her relentless thirst for knowledge and the joy she used in seeing anything around her made her discover new things everywhere, continuously asking herself questions and forever seeking answers. These young people, and I refer here specifically to the PhD students whose parents cannot pay the study fees, as it is the case with almost all intellectuals from former Eastern European communist countries, come to Stony Brook after having prepared for years to learn the language and to score as high as possible on the GRE and TOEFL. And they're happy to find out that they have been accepted to an American graduate program. They dream of becoming famous specialists in their domain and are determined to work as hard so they can do so. They try to meet all the exigencies of the program, repress their desire to have fun, which comes so natural at this age, overcome their fatigue, and make enough savings to be able to buy a book or pay for a plane ticket. They are mature enough to demand that their opinions and personalities be acknowledged and respected, but they are not always mature enough to know what's best for them and how they should take care of themselves. Irina has left. She left as she had left for Holland 12 years ago and for the United States 6 years ago. Only this time she has traveled much, much further so that she may enjoy a wider horizon and get a better view of the world she has lived in, or perhaps to meet the other world too, and to encounter the perfection she could not encounter here. A few days before her departure, Irina was obsessed by telling us, "I love you." She did tell us these words even as she lived her last moment, with a surreal, melodic, angelic voice that seemed to come from above. She addressed it to us, but not us alone. The amazingly gentle, warm, beautiful tone she had that evening, her voice as if it came from above, talking to the hospital personnel, from doctors to nurses, clearly attests that this message of love was addressed by Irina to all people. Dear professors in the U.S., you have the privilege, but also the big responsibility of working with a wonderful youth. Please receive this message from Irina. Love your students. Help them to fulfill their dreams. Love them, even though you might not always be content with how they solve their syntax problems. I would now like to ask Kent to perform another piece for us. This piece, entitled Mailman, is by a contemporary American singer-songwriter, Peter Mulvey, who also performed at Stony Brook earlier this year, and is one of Kent's favorites for the last 20 years. Whenever I listen to this particular song, and in particular to the references to a tree, to the struggles with existential questions and belief and rebirth, moving on with life, it reminds me of Irina. It reminds